This episode of Business Beyond the Game is brought to you by Open Sponsorship, the OG of athlete influencer marketing. Open Sponsorship provides brands both big and small with a network of over 20,000 athletes, AI-based matching, and robust ROI tracking tools. For those marketing managers and agencies who just don't have the time, Open Sponsorship also provides a white glove service to help you with every step of the process. Backed by Serena Williams and trusted by brands like Walmart, JD Sports, and Callaway Golf, find out how Open Sponsorship can elevate your brand today. And learn more at opensponsorship.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new season of Business Beyond the Game, bringing it to you live from our new studio here on 5th Avenue. I'm your host, Eric Jackson, and I'm pleased to be joined by special guests, tech investor, entrepreneur, and someone who happens to play running back for the Washington Commanders, Austin Ekeler. Austin, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for that intro. I like it. That was unique. We took the business route, then brought it back in. I like that. I appreciate that.
How's the city treating you, man, here in the Big Apple?
It's like my third time out here, and I'm surprised every time I come out here. I see something new every single time, and it's different because I've been on the West Coast, and I was talking to some people today. They don't even have cars out here. That just like kind of blows my mind, that concept of like public transportation being actually that efficient out here. So. It's been nice. It's a nice little gloomy day, but hey, yeah. I'll be out here a little bit more often, so I'm sure I'll get used to it.
Austin, I really want to dive into your entrepreneurial journey and, how you became one of the most interactive players in the NFL. But before we do that, I want to dive into your background a little bit.
Yeah.
Growing up in rural Colorado, very blue collar, working with your hands, working on farms. Just in your mind, how much did that just shape you and sort of growing up with that chip on your shoulder, if you will?
Yeah, really taught me a lot of lessons that were transferable to today, and that's something that I keep with me because at the time I didn't necessarily know, but now that I'm older and can kind of comprehend and really can understand why I do what I do, and I attribute a lot of that back to my childhood and being in that scenario where you had a lot of responsibility as a child. When I was taking care of the animals, when I was building fence, barbed wire fence, when I was going through sports, year round, I was in a lot of environments where I took a lot of mental toughness, working as a team, building things, and there was really no excuses. It was, hey, you have a job to do, you got to get it done. And that's really stayed with me through, today. And I still continue to have that same spark of, hey, whatever job you have, now it's not as many and it's more focused.
Right.
But I'm trying to do it as much as I can and to my power. And really, it's almost like a blessing and a curse, I say, is I have this obsessive personality where I get something and I'm really into it, want to take it and maximize it. And so leads to me, putting in a lot of work and working hard, but that's what I enjoy doing.
I know, because other colleagues, if you will, in the NFL, others kind of grew up with a lot of accolades, right, and all this different stuff. And, for you growing up and, Eaton playing for the Fighting Reds and, how does that just, how much you just instill that still to this day, right, just coming from a small town,
Yeah. Absolutely. And so something that I've learned from that too, because my small town was very supportive of their local school. Eaton, like you said, the Eaton Fighting Reds, like I still see that community. I can still see after the games, everyone coming down, shaking hands, taking pictures after basketball, football, track. It didn't matter the sport. Had a ton of community buy-in. And then it was the same as I went to college. And then getting out to LA, I held that same appreciation for the fans and people supporting me around me. And it's something that I think is also attributed to who I am today and why I care so much for the community and do so many things outside of football.
I know, and only one school wanted you to play tailback.
Correct.
Western Colorado.
Shout out to Western, man. Shout out.
Went to Western Colorado, starred there. But despite starring there, you went undrafted 2017. How do you think just going in as an undrafted free agent to the NFL sort of helped you focus early on to, really dig deep into your post-career ambitions?
Yeah, I think it put me in a situation where I had one really, really big opportunity, the biggest opportunity I've ever had in my life right in front of me. Here you go, Austin. Here's a chance to go play in the NFL. You're going to be undrafted. You're going to be sixth string on the depth chart, and you got to prove everything for you to make it. Good luck. All right. Well, I approached.
No pressure.
Yeah, right. It was no pressure, but yeah, it was all the pressure. I put everything, and I put it on myself. I heavily wore that, and I wore it on my mental. I wore it on how I approached my physical, my training, and I used it as something where it helped me laser focus for that period of time when I was trying to make the team, where I knew that I had everything to prove. I knew that I was number 3 out there. No one knows who I am. Actually, my head coach didn't know who I was until I made the team. So that's because there's 90 guys. There's a lot of guys all over the place. And so that's just the scenario I was in. I didn't have much exposure. They didn't know really much about who I was, where I was from. And so for me, I took everything And any opportunity I got, it was like, this is everything. Like, you have to make this work. This is it. And that's how I approached it. And it ended up working out for me because I didn't get a lot of reps, but the reps that I did get, I did my job and I made an impact. And it wasn't like I was making crazy plays the whole time, but I did, like I said, I did my job and I made an impact in that. And so when you do your job, hey, you can build more trust. You build more trust, you get more opportunities, right? And then you continue to repeat the cycle, and ended up, eventually making the team.
The rest is history after that. Right?
And then it's same thing for today, right? And then you asked how it translates into off the field stuff. It's been the same thing. I've learned how to create a process, immerse myself into it, learn, put my energy into it, build. Same thing off the field. Learn about it, immerse myself into it, find other people that are in that, build, and just keep going. And now I have a few teams that help me handle all of my endeavors and make an impact off the field.
I know, and now I'm really curious your thoughts now on just the community, right? You mentioned that going back to Eaton and just fans. You've always been about the fans your whole career, right? And now you've really leaned into really connecting with them more than most NFL players, it seems like. And you've done this by launching your own engagement app called Eksperience. For you, how'd you just fill that void? Like, what void did you see in the marketplace where you were like, I need to do this? Like, I need to launch this.
Yeah, absolutely. So the void that is there is individual athletes or influential individuals being able to really commercialize their fan engagement and make it easy for them. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of other industries that pull from our likeness, right? Jerseys, media,
trading cards.
Yeah, trading cards, video games, and they pull it, and sometimes that trickles back to the actual players. But one that hasn't really been tapped into and is really old is fan engagement. Like, fan engagement, how do you do it? Well, you can, beg on the sidelines for a picture, or you can go to a fan meet and greet that happens maybe once a year. And so it's really outdated, and there's no one really attacking it in this space in the way it needs to be attacked, which is from the athlete's perspective of making it as easy as possible. For me to go do a brand deal, it's really easy. Everything's set up. Everything's there. Even get on this podcast, right? Yeah. Even jumping on here, I walked in and just got right in here, and then I'm going to walk right out. And that's exactly how easy the fan engagement has to be. And so now we got to make it virtual because we're in the virtual age. And so that's what Eksperience is. And that's the deficiency I saw in the market.
I know. And we see with NIL, right, across the college landscape, we see the biggest stars, the Caitlin Clarks and everyone, the biggest stars reaping the benefits, right? Yeah. But there's so many athletes who are not on the billboards and not on national television, right? So do you feel like this caters more to the other 99% of student athletes who want opportunities?
So there's a few differentiators that we have, and that is being one of them, where it's obvious with the big name people that have the media attention. Yeah, it's understandable why they're getting the brand deals. And we come in from a stance where it's not even about the brand. It's about the individual. It's about the team. And it's about the supporters of that team. It doesn't have to be the biggest person. It just has to be someone who wants to connect with you and support either you or support the team, which will trickle down to you. Back in my Division II school, I didn't have there's zero media attention. It was just my town of 4,000 people, tiny Gunnison, Colorado.
Student newspaper.
Ski town. However, after every single game, we would go to this restaurant, and all the alumni and the former players and the community that wanted to come would be there, and I'd be shaking hands, meeting people, congratulations, man, like, great game, like, all of that. And my teammates are there. We're all there. We're all mingling. And so that was a way to support then, and that was even in a smaller community where it still happens. There's still people that want to support the team, even though it's not as maybe plentiful as some of these bigger schools. It's still part of the ecosystem of fans supporting their local teams.
Love that. And kind of switching gears a little bit, just talking ball a little bit, ball and business. We've seen the headlines and reports of the lack of job security for running backs, right? So I'm curious your thoughts on, from someone who plays that position, how much do you think others who play the position have to consider their post-career business ambitions more than other skill players, wide receivers or quarterbacks or
the NFL is a league where it's violent and players come and go. It's very, very fluid, and the turnover is very high with people coming in and out. So that in itself, people, I'm going to always encourage them to look into other things, learn about other endeavors, whatever you're interested in. Use the platform while you can to meet with people in those industries, because you have this coolness factor of being a current player. When you're a former player, you still have a little bit of weight, but it's not as, you can watch me on TV now.
On Sundays, right?
So I'm always encouraging, but also I'm very cautious with people, because I understand that people are in different scenarios in their life as far as what they want to do. Some want to get into it. Some don't even want to touch it. They just want to play ball.
Right.
And so it comes down to the individual, but me as kind of a leader in the locker room, I've always showed, like, hey guys, if you want to get involved, I'm always here. I'm an open door for you, but also just learn. don't push it. Don't try to rush into it. There's always going to be an opportunity for you to have an opportunity as far as outside of football. It's inevitable, actually, that you're going to have something outside of football. So make sure you get football down first before transitioning, before learning, but before actually making actionable movements in the next space.
We talk so much about like the culture on the show, and I'm really curious for you in the locker room how much you've seen the shift in conversation, because I talked to other former athletes, current and former athletes, who talked about it used to be a lot about guys talking in the locker room about their new summer home or their new whip that they just bought. What I mean? How much have you noticed guys now talking more about the deal flow or this new venture they're starting?
Yeah, that's good. That's good that you're hearing some more about that. But I mean, there still is the shenanigans locker room talk. That's never.
That's not gonna go away, right?
Yeah. That's what makes the locker room great, right? You get that camaraderie where it's kind of like closed doors, and you guys see this or talk about this.
Yeah.
Or, some wild conversations that go on that can't be talked about here. But the business stuff has definitely came up, and especially with like some of these trending things like crypto and the NFT space when that was a thing.
The more sexy sort of stuff.
Yeah. So there's definitely talks about I've done deals with some of my teammates in the real estate market, and so there's definitely a lot more education around this stuff, and I attribute that to really the rise of this social media and all the media that's coming up on YouTube and all these things that are like really, some of this stuff's really good and educational, and people getting interested in it because they hear stuff. So it's definitely a positive thing to see. But also, like I said, I'm also telling them, hey, be cautious. Like, you don't rush into this. Like, you're going to have more there's always going to be opportunities to invest your money, right? So to make sure when you actually get into it, you feel comfortable, you understand it, you can speak the language, you have someone you trust that can help you with it. But yeah, it's really encouraging to see it.
And for you, you're going into your 8th season, previous 7 with the Los Angeles Chargers, switching over now to the Commanders. Does it feel weird trading the powder blue for the burgundy and gold?
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does. This is my first year in the pros, and I'm not going to be rocking the powder blues and not going to be in California. But that's not to say it's a bad thing. Like, I actually am really looking forward to being in a new atmosphere, being around new people, being in a new environment. I see my life as really a long journey, and this is kind of like a new wrinkle that's really intriguing to me, to see the new opportunities that I can, continue to build and connect with people out here and create those. So I'm looking forward to it, and looking forward to what we got going on with the Commanders, of course, as well, with new ownership, kind of a new vibe. We have a lot of new things coming. Older guys coming in, help set the culture. With the draft, we'll see what happens with our scenario with the number 2 pick and over. So there's a lot of new news that are here that I'm excited to see how they play out.
I know, like, obviously from a free agent standpoint, how much do you consider ownership, right? Commanders new owner, Josh Harris, others, Magic. But how much do you consider just new ownership? Or is it more about, all right, am I going to get the reps I want? How much do you weigh that versus?
Fair question. Very fair question. And I would say that the scenario that you're going into plays the biggest part into where you're going. Like, hey, how do I see myself? Is there upside here? Do I have a spot here? What's the roster looking like?
Right.
Like, what's the demeanor? Who are they bringing in? So for our scenario, new ownership and new coaching staff. So there's a lot of unknowns.
A lot of new.
I've heard a lot of great things about Dan Quinn, and DQ is what they call him over there. So
DQ.
Yeah, DQ. And so I'm looking forward to meeting him a lot more. And just really getting to hear, kind of his philosophy, how he sets the culture. And the situation with the team was obviously intriguing for me. Well, maybe it's not obvious, but being around Anthony Lynn, my old head coach, as well as now as my running back coach, and a lot of respect for him. He's seen as like one of the gurus in the running back space and helped me get my start in that position as well. So a lot of ties that are coming back to some positive things.
Definitely. And Commanders limited partner and astute businessman, Magic Johnson. Have you had a chance yet to pick Magic's brain?
No, I haven't yet. But look, the off season is the time for that. So whenever he's in the office over there, I'll definitely be marching upstairs and picking his brain just on the business side, just because I know he being a player now, heavily in the entrepreneur space. I definitely respect that.
I know, and he's so big on like financial literacy. And for you, Austin, who was somebody who just gave you, very, very important financial advice? When you first came into money in the NFL.
Financial advice. A lot of YouTube. A lot of YouTube. Yeah. I mean, there wasn't a lot of people around me with money growing up that I really was close to.
Yeah.
And so I just naturally had what was it, natural. It was built a passion for real estate.
Yeah.
And so that's where I started putting my money into early on. And then I started to get around people that had been in real estate and been around capital as I got into like year 3. And so I'd already accumulated some capital and made some mistakes, got into deals where I shouldn't have, things like that. And so nowadays, I have a couple people, like David Meltzer is one of my guys that has really kind of shed light, not just in the money, but really just in life in general for me.
That's a great one to have.
Yeah, and then Bill Ekeler too, who's my cousin, who's been in the entrepreneur space, helped me with my foundation, has really been helping me out too, especially on the tax side, because tax is a whole other thing when we're talking about write-offs, what to do, what to not, how to even structure your bank account, things like that. So definitely had a few people helping me as I got going.
You mentioned some deals that didn't go the way you wanted necessarily, but also you've had the wins off the field too. I really like to ask people on this question as we wind down here, Austin. What's been the best business lesson that you've learned during
the best business lesson that I've learned is not to rush. It seems like there's something fresh and new, and you're like, oh, this is it. But guess what? As I've been in here, there's always going to be the next. This is it, fresh and new. It might take a little bit, but as you continue to learn about an industry and really understand how to, speak the language, get in network in that space, you're going to see that there's opportunity all over the place, just depending on who you're connected to. And so learn and network. Like before you even start putting $1 into any deal, learn and network, because as you continue to go on through your life, like I said, there's always it's undefeated. There's always going to be new opportunities to some capacity, because there's always a bunch of savvy people trying to work together to create deals. There's other people like yourself. So don't rush it. Learn first, and then also connect and start there.
Not shooting the gap too early on the field and off the field. There you have it, folks. From the man himself, thank you for watching Business Beyond the Game. Austin, appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is great, man. Love the new setup. Best of luck with everything. We got the diversity in here. I like it in sports. Yeah.